Rogue CTM-1 is probably the best cable tower on the market, with some caveats. Seriously, this thing's incredible. A lat pull down, low row, and functional trainer that's beyond polished, and let's not forget the multi-use seat, which opens up even more possibilities. But sitting there awkwardly staring at me in the corner while I say that is Rep's Adonis, which has remarkably similar capabilities. Now, we can get mad and point fingers at who copied who, but Prime in their HLP single stack might have something to say about that. And in reality, we as consumers are the ones benefiting from it. I'm fine with these two big corporations battling it out as long as in the long run we end up with a better product. And the CTM-1 is a very good cable tower. It offers a ton of versatility when compared to a traditional cable tower and a much more compact footprint than a traditional lat pull down and low row. So we're going to make some comparisons and break down the options to see if this is worth the money. And just so Mr. I wouldn't have watched the video if I knew this is going to cost me a mortgage payment doesn't blast me in the comments, I get it. I bought this myself. It is not cheap, and to fund these videos, I have to sell off other equipment. So if you enjoy our content, press subscribe, and please use our links if you make a purchase, because I'm with Mortgage Guy. As a small family-owned channel, we can't afford to make these videos without your support. Now, I did say the CTM-1 is potentially the best, not the cheapest. So let's break down the build options so you know what you're spending. Realistically, you're probably looking at around $3,300 to $3,500 with that sweet free shipping baked into the cost. For comparison's sake and to keep things simple and fair, we'll say Rep's Adonis cost around $3,000 shipped when built similarly, although you can get a plate-loaded version to save some money, but Rogue is supposed to be offering one of those as well. With both, you can attach them to your rack or remove the seat to get the price down, but I doubt many people are doing that. You do, after all, need somewhere to sit. And the Pegasus on the Adonis and Rogue's multi-use seat are kind of the stars of the show. That price difference is because Rogue is made in America and Rep imports their equipment, but there's also quality differences I'll show as we go. I do have to give props to Rogue for allowing you to pick which attachments you want a la carte. More companies need to give you that option. They also have a few more options with how you build it. With the Adonis, you're pretty limited. With the CTM-1, you can opt for a 90-inch height like us, or 100 inches, a 250 or 300-pound stack, and so on. They are built on basically the same structural components though. So 11 gauge thick 3x3 steel tubing. They have 1-inch holes and 2-inch hole spacing, meaning they're literally built with the same components as Rogue's Monster Rack and Rep's PR5000, which makes them tanks, but more importantly, it makes them compatible with anything that can go on those respective racks. That being said, at their core, the Adonis and CTM-1 do essentially the same things, even if at times one does it better than the other. A good example of that is the low row. Both are solid, but Rogue's is a little more refined. The two are using 1-to-1 pulley ratios on their low rows, giving you 10-pound weight increments and access to the entire weight of the stack. And I doubt many people are maxing out these big heavy stacks. I opted for the 250-pound stack, I think because at the time I was trying to save money, which really doesn't sound like me, but that's easier for my ego to accept than convincing myself I'll never need the full 300-pound stack. Luckily, I am pretty good at lying to myself, so I picked up the optional band pegs. They let you add more weight or micro-load your lifts. Although I will say, for the money, they really should come included on the CTM-1 rather than be an added cost. And the weight horns on Rep's Adonis are better integrated. As for low rows, both have a big beefy foot plate that's stable and telescopes in and out, so you can adjust it to get more of a stretch, as well as remove it entirely if you feel it's in your way. You do have to sit on the floor while rowing with these, and while I don't really mind rowing on the floor, whoever owns this place never cleans the floor, so it is kind of gross. And you can also technically row off a decline bench with them. So sure, they're functionally similar, but where the CTM-1 has Maybe what I'd call a slight advantage is if I take the seat off, which isn't much of a process. There's a little tightening knob in the back there. And then if I flip it over, probably should put the tightening knob back on so I don't hurt myself on camera. Wouldn't that be fun? This seat angles about 180 degrees. So if I set it about there, I can now do chest supported rows on the CTM-1, which is not something I can do off the cable on the Adonis, and my face isn't as close to anything as it would be on the Pegasus. I can also do other upright pulls on this low row, which isn't something you can do on the Adonis because they've got a retaining pin in the way, which rubs on your cable and adds a lot of friction to the movement. You can technically remove that pin like I did to make it so upright pulls work, but it's still an odd design oversight, and I'm reviewing the equipment, not the mods we make to make things better. If you're thinking, why not just use the functional trainer trolley down low instead? While it swivels nearly 180 degrees and you can pull at any angle with it, so delt raises and other functional trainer exercises will work, you can't use the trolley with the seat on either machine because the cable will be in the way of you attaching it. Outside of that, this trolley works very well, and integrating it into the tower gives these machines more versatility than your traditional lat and low row combo. Rogue's using the same high-end pulleys with high-quality bearings that they're using in all their rack integrated pulley systems, and while the cable routing and machine is more complex than something like Rogue's Indy, probably the smoothest system I've ever used next to their twin stack, I'd give Rogue the nod over Rep here because this is a little bit smoother than the Adonis, although you'd probably have to be peak level home gym nerdy to notice or point that out. The reason being, even though Rep's Adonis is very well built, it's a more complex machine since Rep is using an internal guide rod system to combat the cable twisting issues they've had on some of their other machines. And the more parts you introduce into a system, the more inherent friction it'll have. As a functional trainer, this works very well. Obviously, you're stuck doing unilateral movements, but I often prefer those on the rare days my kids nap and I have time to get an actual workout in because I can better focus and isolate the muscles. The trolley has a 2-to-1 cable ratio, giving you a 10-pound starting weight and 5-pound weight increments, which is typical for a functional trainer in a home gym. And that ratio doubles the cable travel, so you can pretty much do whatever exercise you want on it. The only issue I found is since the trolleys on both Rogue and Rep are oversized, they can't be set as low as on their cable integrated rack. So you may have range of motion issues on upright pulls depending on the attachment you're using. Luckily, that doesn't really matter on the CTM-1 since you can just pull upright on the low row and use that one instead. I'd give Rogue a slight advantage on lat pulls too. At 6 foot tall and our CTM-1 being 90 inches tall, I can get a full range of motion and a good stretch on lat pulls, although maybe not a perfectly vertical pull. With a 1-to-1 pulley ratio on the lat pull, just like with the low row, I've got 250 pounds or more to work with. Rogue's multi-use seat is sturdy, it holds you in place well, the leg rollers are easy to adjust, you're locked in, the padding is comfortable, which may sound a bit weird to say, but the Pegasus can feel a little bit cramped in your midsection. Rogue's seat also doesn't jump around as much as the Pegasus can. In fairness, that's because the Pegasus has 3 points of adjustability: the seat height, angle, and leg rollers, whereas the multi-use seat only has the angle and leg rollers. Less parts means less play, so excuse my technical terminology here, but it's got less wiggly jiggly. And that's with me completely ignoring this detent pin sticker here that you definitely can't even see. I've never used the pin, not that I'd recommend you ever do what I do, but it is just a sturdier seat. Although I do like that you can adjust the height on the Pegasus seat without having to remove it from the rack, and I'd also give the Pegasus a slight advantage when it comes to installing and removing it. The Rogue Monster multi-use lat seat, what a name, It's not difficult to take on and off, but you can do a lot with these things. So if you see yourself doing a ton of other movements, you'll be moving it around a lot on the rack, that may be something you want to factor in. It does weigh 5 pounds less than the Pegasus, and they both have handles built into the seats and are fairly easy to handle. But my wife has almost fallen off Prime Shorty Bench while doing leg extensions with the Smart Arm a few times. So I feel like it's only a matter of time before she knocks me out while flipping this thing. Although, after that joke, it might not be an accident. These seats, if you even want to call them that, are great because you can do so much with them. Making this where I do a cool use montage. It'll take me an hour to film and it'll be over in a few seconds. Wow, would you look at how I'm spending my time? Are you going to use yours for all those things? Probably not. But in a home gym where space is limited, I'd rather have the options than not. And that's the appeal to standalone cable towers like this. You're packing a ton of functionality into a small-ish footprint. Although the trade-off there is, as you combine more things, it can feel a bit cluttered. It's a balancing act. Take my rack, for example. To use my trolleys, I have to remove my safeties. So sure, I'd love everything separated out rather than integrated, but that would take up a ton more space and cost me a lot more money. The Pegasus is the more versatile of the two though, with the ability to take the leg rollers off entirely and use them in other ways. But the amount of times I've actually done that is equal to the amount of videos I've made on that thing. 1. That being said, Rogue's leg rollers have gotten in my way when doing spider curls, which is honestly offensive on this channel, but you can just remove the retaining screw so you can move them out of the way and they'll still be able to lock into all the regular positions. But if I harped on the Adonis vertical pull, removing the pin on the low row tweak, it only makes sense to do the same thing here. They're both really good attachments, but reps can do a little bit more. Not that that matters really, since you can just buy the Pegasus and put it right on the CTM-1. The multi-use seat also fits on the Adonis, but the shrouds are in the way of the tightening pin. But if you just use 2 pins to hold it on, it really doesn't move around any more than the Pegasus already did. They also cost about the same, although Rogue does discount the multi-use seat and their attachments when they're bought alongside the CTM-1, so I guess Rogue's is theoretically a little cheaper. Also, no offense to Rep here. This is kind of one of those times where you say no offense and then say something kind of offensive, but the build quality on the CTM-1 is a step above Rep's. Now, don't get me wrong, Rep's attention to detail may be a little better with them adding pegboard storage into the shrouds, although it is a limited amount. You can use these magnetic storage hooks that we showed off in our storage video on the side of the shrouds of the CTM-1. We use them all over our gym to hold different things. Still though, Rep's done better with storage. Being able to store the Pegasus on the side of the Adonis is a nice touch. There's nowhere to put the multi-use seat on here when you're not using it. Rogue, why not give me 4-way hole spacing on the legs like you've done everywhere else on this thing? That way I could put the seat or whatever else I want on here. Although, maybe that would be a good use of the Monster mini strip that comes with this I could store on my wall next to it. Rep also includes adder weights, and the metallic black powder coat and stainless steel logo give the Adonis a bit of a pop. Not that either of them are winning any design awards with their black on black on black boxy designs. Rogue does do a better job with shipping and assembly, with details like the numbered stickers showing you how to route the cables during installation. Everyone needs to do that. It just makes things so much simpler. Their packaging is better too. Everything is boxed up individually. Nothing is bumping into each other during shipping, whereas the Adonis comes in one big crate, and mine took some pretty bad shots on the way here. Rogue's trolleys are beautiful too. Now, They are heavier than reps, but Rogue switched to aluminum handles on their trolleys, including the ones on their rack systems, making the trolley about 3 pounds lighter than when they were using stainless steel handles. And yes, I'm that nerdy, I did pull both sets off and weigh them. It's a smart move on Rogue's part because aluminum is cheaper and easier to machine, but it also gives Rogue another potential customization option because these are the same handles they're using on their new series of cable attachments, meaning you can pull these off and swap them for a different color or even change the diameter. And yes, I even tested that too. The trolleys are easy to move and move smoothly with the integrated rollers and with subtle touches like the UHMW across the front lip here, nothing gets banged up on them. And Rogue's cable endpoints are just superior to Reps. They spin cleanly without twisting the cables like Reps. Rogue's attachments are nicer too. Their D handle rotates on bushings rather than Reps on a nylon strap, giving them a more fluid feel. And their lap bar is the best one on the market, and I've used dozens of them. It's got a little thicker diameter than Reps, which when combined with their knurling gives it a fantastic grip, especially if you spring for the stainless steel version. But the best part is you can pick which attachments you want. All right. Where does that leave the CTM-1 overall? I know there's a lot of hype around dual arm towers right now, and I've tested a few, but until one of them blows me away, I'm sticking with one of these. Our current options have trade-offs, like the fact you're working off a single stack, so your arms are connected, and you have to connect the arms to do lat pulls and low rows, which never works as well as it looks like it does. With the CTM-1 up against the Adonis, honestly, you'll be happy with either of them. They're both great. If you're looking at this type of machine, Rep and Rogue are my top two choices. Although Prime's HLP single stack is very good too, but with that 2-to-1 ratio on the trolley for rows, you may be maxing it out pretty easily. Prime and Rogue are made in America, whereas Rep's imported, but Prime is going to cost you more than Rogue, and when prices are this close between Rep and Rogue, I like the CTM-1 for how I use it. You're not me though, and you have your own wants and needs, so let me know what you think. Thanks to our Patreons, this video would not exist without you, and thanks for watching.